Hello. What can one person do? Plenty. What is the effective way to influence others for good? The Watchtower says door-to-door work is the way. But what I have come to believe is that we should do what we can with what we have, wherever we are, and with whoever we can. So befriend people and care and share for people, and you will have influence on those people. So not that you befriend people with some other end in mind, but just befriend people. Things happen. I'm going to read you the life of Barbara Heck from Victor's little mini profiles in his book, Cloud of Witnesses, Great Cloud of Witnesses. Barbara Heck lived from 1734 to 1804. 2 brass candlesticks sit on 2 small tables flanking the pulpit chair in John Street Methodist Church, New York City. The candlesticks belonged to Barbara Heck. She brought them every Sunday to the early worship service. They were lit at every service in the church today. Oh, they are lit at every service in the church today. The lamp that she herself was has not been hidden under a bushel. Barbara von Ruckel was born in County Limerick, Ireland, to parents whose Protestant forebears had fled persecution in Germany. French soldiers under King Louis XIV had pillaged the southern part of Germany, harassing all who clung to the truths of the Reformation. The beleaguered people scattered. In 1709, a group of 110 families fled as far as Rotterdam, where the ocean frustrated their escape attempt. Pitying their plight, Queen Anne of England dispatched British ships to the Dutch seaport to save the refugees. The grateful people were set down in County Limerick. The government eased them into their new lives by paying rent on the land where they would farm for the next 2 decades. The recently arrived German refugees quickly demonstrated their superiority to the native Irish peasants in all aspects of agriculture. Resentment mounted. Rents were raised 600%. John Wesley, who made 22 trips to Ireland, was aghast when he visited the German-speaking colony and witnessed the manner in which the refugees were being penalized for their industry. He wrote in his journal, "I stand amazed. Have landlords no common sense, whether they have common humanity or no, that they will suffer such as these to be starved away from them?" Wesley also noted that these people were starving for the bread of life as well. He observed that in 50 years since they had left Germany, they had become eminent for drunkenness, cursing, swearing, and utter neglect of religion. He attributed their downward slide to the fact that for 50 years they had been without a German-speaking pastor. Wesley himself, however, was fluent in German and was overjoyed to see the Methodist articulation of the gospel seize the people and change them profoundly. At age 18, Barbara had publicly professed her faith in Jesus Christ. When Wesley visited the Emerald Isle several years later, the two of them resonated. The distinctive emphasis of Methodism, rooted in Barbara, would eventually be transplanted to the soil of the New World. The gentry in Ireland continued their persecution. confiscating the pasture land which the German refugees held in common. Deprived of the land and afflicted with unpayable taxes, many decided to emigrate to America. Barbara married Paul Hecht. The name was anglicized to Heck, and together they braved a 63-day trip to New York City. New York City in 1760 was populated with 14,000 Dutch, English, German, Spanish, and Afro-Americans. The city's spiritual carelessness startled Barbara, as did a similar carelessness in the members of her extended family, cousins, in-laws, distant relatives, who had emigrated with her. She pleaded with her cousin, Philip Embry, to preach. He maintained that he couldn't, insomuch as he had neither church nor congregation. "Preach in your own house, and I will gather a congregation," Barbara replied. The mustard seed congregation began with only 4 people: Barbara, her husband, a laborer, and a black female servant. They persevered. Just when it seemed the mustard seed would never germinate and multiply, Captain Thomas Webb appeared. He was regimental commander of the British forces at Albany. Standing erect in his military bearing, attired in the famous red coat, Webb preached and the congregation grew. In addition to his red coat, Webb also wore a green patch over one eye. He had been wounded at the Battle of the Plains of Abraham, when Quebec fell to the British. Soon the private home was overcrowded. The congregation needed a church building. Barbara herself designed it, the first Methodist church building in the New World. At the service of dedication, the preacher expounded Hosea 10, verse 12. "Sow for yourselves righteousness, reap the fruit of steadfast love. Break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord." This building was soon outgrown, and in 1768 another was raised in New York City. The seats had no backs, and the gallery was reached by means of a ladder. Hundreds thronged to it every Sunday. When the American War of Independence loomed, Barbara left New York City with her husband and their 5 children and moved to a farm in Camden, near Lake Champlain. Angry neighbors who supported the coming revolution burned them out, destroying their livestock and forcing them off their land. Once again, the Heck family moved, this time to the Montreal area. A few years later, they settled in the area of what would eventually become Brockville. Compared to New York City, their new habitat was a wilderness. Undaunted, Barbara commenced her mustard seed sowing all over again. It took years to gather enough people to form the first Methodist class in Canada. The people she brought together had to minister to each other for 5 years. Only then did a circuit-riding saddlebag preacher arrive to lead them. When she was 70 years old, one of her 3 sons found Barbara sitting in her chair, her German Bible open on her lap. The woman who had never spoken English well, yet who was the mother of English Methodism in Canada, had gone home. I couldn't help but think of the passage in 1 Corinthians. When you think of the Corinthian congregation, if you start at the beginning of the book, you see this arguing of who you're following. So there's this competition of I follow this person, I follow that person. You see squabbling over gifts in chapter 12. But What I never noticed before was that the passage, the one that's so famous as the love passage, is in the middle of this, of the gifts being an argument between people, and this love chapter, and then it goes back into gifts again. So after speaking about the need for the body to have many members and having their part to play in the body, Paul says at the end of chapter 12, "And now I shall show you the most excellent way." And then he gives you chapter 13. So I think this chapter here in the middle of the squabble is the answer. The most excellent way is love. So I thought to read chapter 13. "If I speak in tongues of men and angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong of a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy, and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when perfection comes, the imperfect disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put away childish ways. I put them behind me. Now we see but a poor reflection, as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. So I would say Barbara Heck is a good example of a person who just loved people. And so she used that. That was her gift. One of the gifts that it mentions different people having is the gift of helps. But very few people say, I want to have the gift of helps. But that was the gift she had. I'm going to link a video that was based on a book that I read by Michael Frost on Surprise the World. And a second video that is a Ray France video that was from his Meditations in a Search of Christian Freedom, Part 2, his impact from Crisis of Conscience, his first book.